Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a while, but there's been some craziness with moving and school and all sorts of stuff. But today, after work, I picked up these. They are the SOHO New York, London, DC comic themed brushes. And as soon as I heard about these, I'm a massive DC fan, obviously, and I love makeup. So as soon as I heard about this, I was like, I have to have it. So picked them up, and then I went onto Facebook on my makeup group and was like, hey, do you guys want to see a first impressions review of this? And they were like, yeah! So that's what we're going to do today, and we're going to jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the packaging, and the Harley Quinn packaging for the box looks like this. Each has their symbol along the side, and the back of each brush set has what the brushes are called and what they can be used for. I do appreciate this because the art is the original comic art, which I really appreciate, being a massive comic book fan, but this was Harley's box. And then Batgirl's box looks like this. It's blue and black. And I really feel like they missed an opportunity here. Instead of doing blue and black, they could have done blue and yellow by driving home the, heroes against villains aspect of it. But it's still pretty nice, and I love that they used Barbara Gordon, the original Batgirl. Can't go wrong. And this is Catwoman's box, and it's got little purple cats. I like purple, so that's nice. And the brushes look like this. Harley Quinn's, obviously, classic, black and red, half and half, have to do it. It's just way too easy. Messing with the brushes more, something that I noticed that I don't really like is that the handles, they're not printed this way. They're that sticker kind of shrink wrap deal. So they're gonna flake off eventually with enough use and enough washing. And the symbols for each of the heroes are also, again, that sticker sort of thing. So downside is if you don't want these to flake off or lose their themes, really, you don't want to use them. You're just going to want to keep them on your vanity as display. But Harley's is your base face brush set, and you have your all over face brush, your angled cream foundation brush, and your angled brow brush, which they can also say can be used as eyeliner, but I'll get to that later. Batgirl's is contouring, and we have the stippling brush, the angled buffing brush, and your concealer brush. I feel like they could have done a little bit more if they would have done like a little highlighting brush, but again, drugstore, bar set a little bit lower. And then, of course, Catwoman gets the cat eye set. We have our eyeshadow brush, our crease brush, our brow brush, our precision eyeliner brush, and I'm making this face for a reason, and then your regular spoolie. So all your basics that you really need out of the set are right here, and that's really nice. So next up is the comparison of each brush. So this is the all-over face brush from the Harley set, and I'm reading off the back of the box that it can be used to apply powder, blush, bronzer, or mineral foundation. It's soft and fluffy. Bristles are designed to hold and distribute product evenly and flawlessly. So that's a con that I feel, that I can't use like a liquid foundation or a cream foundation with this. The other con that I feel is that it's not that big. I don't see myself gravitating to this as a foundation brush. I see myself gravitating to this as maybe a buffer brush, maybe a like contour brush, like for my temples, but I don't see myself grabbing it to use as a blush brush or as a foundation brush, because I have a Real Techniques Expert Face Brush here, which anyone who uses Real Techniques knows that this brush right here can be used for everything from contouring to blush to foundation. And the size is what makes me feel like I'm not going to gravitate towards this brush as a foundation brush as much as I do this brush. Now, density This one's a touch more dense, and that's just what I expect out of an all-over face brush. So I'll find myself gravitating towards this more for like a foundation purpose, but for blush and contouring, I think I'll find myself grabbing this brush. Then we have the cream foundation brush, which it's the curved foundation brush. And the back of the box says that it is used to apply liquid or cream foundation. Its wide base easily covers cheeks, chin, and forehead, while the pointed tip covers hard-to-reach areas like under eyes, around nose, and on blemishes. Density, like, I can see this good for buffing, like, you know, your downward strokes and then buffing it out. I can see that being done. It's just not as dense, so I feel like it's going to be streaky, so you're going to be buffing for a good minute before you are happy with your application. The best comparison that I have for it, because there's not really a foundation brush shaped like this that's like wide on the prestige market yet, but is the Real Techniques foundation brush that's also curved. And this is kind of what I think more of when I'm gravitating towards a creamer foundation, a more like flat kind of paintbrush sort of looking brush. So really I think this is going to be good for, you know, like you're like dipping off the back of your hand and then going downwards and then buffing, because this you can really just paint it on and then you have to grab a different brush to buff it out. So this is good design on their part. But again, I think I'm going to find myself gravitating towards this more just because this seems more ergonomically making sense. And then the next brush is the angled eyebrow brush. And the angled eyebrow brush is used to shape and fill in eyebrows. Its pointed end accurately draws on desired shape, while its wide base fills brows in. This brow can also double as an eyeliner brush. The reason that I very strongly feel that this cannot be doubled as an eyeliner brush is because it is way too wide. I do feel like this is a good brow brush though. The brow brushes that I tend to gravitate towards too on a day-to-day basis are my Real Techniques brow brush and the updated angle brow brush that they recently came out with in a set. It's honestly, it's the size and the thickness of the brush that makes me think that this can't be used as an eyeliner brush, because this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills number 12 brush. This I can see being used as an eyeliner brush. It's small, it's dense, but I can get a very subdued line and a very sharp wing out of this. I feel like this would get very Amy Winehouse very fast. Now we're moving on to Batgirl Set. She has the 3-piece contouring brush set, and this brush is your angled buffing brush, which is used to blend out any harsh lines created by the stippling brush. Its angled shape easily maneuvers around the entire face. Now, they have this advertised that the stippling brush can be used as your contour, but I think I'm going to be gravitating towards this as my contour brush, purely because of the shape. I can see myself dipping into my Pixie bronzer and then just very easily going right under my cheekbone with it, whereas the stippling brush, I see that more as, again, a foundation brush where you're, you know, packing it on a little bit, or maybe a highlighting brush, but I just don't see it as a contour brush. This brush is fairly dense. It's very soft. I will say that. The last brushes were very soft too. Unfortunately, it's not duo fiber, so I feel like buffing could be a thing, but it would just be a touch easier if this were like a little bit duo fiber. Brush that I gravitated to normally for buffing was my Real Techniques buffing brush, and density, they feel pretty similar actually. Actually, now that I'm going through it again, this one feels just a touch more dense. The give is what's bothering me. It doesn't feel like it's very packed very tightly at the ferrule, whereas the buffing brush for Real Techniques feels a little bit tighter at the ferrule. But that's definitely something to keep in mind when you're buying your brushes, because the Real Techniques brush, while it isn't duo fiber, is just a little bit on the fluffier side. So it depends on the type of buffing that you want to do. Do you want to buff for a little bit less time, or do you want the cool packaging? The next brush that we're going to be talking about is the stippling brush. And the stippling brush is used to apply contouring powder. Its soft, feather-like bristles lightly distribute contouring powder under cheekbones and along nasal bridge and jawline. First thing I'm going to say, this brush does not feel soft on my face. It feels a little scratchy. The duo fibers for me are a little bit long. There's just a touch too much give as I'm packing down on it. And again, I normally gravitate towards stippling brushes for a heavier coverage of foundation. So what I expect out of a stippling brush, my favorite is the Sonia Kashuk Tools No. 4 that I got at Target a couple years ago. And it's very dense. It's very tightly packed. You get very good coverage with it. It's not duo fiber though. So the duo fiber that I would gravitate towards too is my Real Techniques stippling brush, which again, it's not the same size, so it's not the best comparison in the world, but again, not as much give. The most on par stippling brush, which I don't gravitate towards at all, I think I bought it to use to blend out my contour actually, is the e.l.f. brand stippling brush. And you can already tell that the duo fibers in the e.l.f. stippling brush are much shorter, which means that it's going to offer better packing and better blending. Which you can see right here. It's not as much give as the Batgirl one. So to me, this brush is a major downfall. I don't see myself grabbing it at the slightest. The last brush in the Batgirl set is the concealer brush. And the concealer brush is used to hide dark circles under eyes and redness around nose and blemishes. Its small shape is ideal for applying liquid or cream concealer on hard to reach areas. This to me feels a little bit big to be a concealer brush, but it is very dense and it is very stiff, so it'll be good to get nice coverage. What I expect out of a concealing brush, which I know this isn't a concealing brush, it is the Real Techniques detailer brush, is something a little bit smaller. Then again, I have smaller features just in general, because I'm a smaller person. I'm only 5'3", but the big thing that the reason I see myself gravitating towards this brush more than I do this brush is because this brush I can use to clean up my wings on my eyeliner. This brush I feel is just a little too big for that. I feel like it's a little bit too big to get to my inner eye. I gotta look up for that, whereas this one I can look straight ahead and not feel like I'm about to poke myself in the eye. So depends on the coverage that you want and depends on your facial features, but I can still see this getting some pretty good use. Alright, now we're moving on to Catwoman Set, which she has the 5-piece cat eye brush set. And the first brush in that set is the eyeshadow brush, used to apply base eyeshadow shades with just a few strokes. Its dense and tapered shape is perfect for applying color to the entire lid area, and I completely agree with this. It's small, very much like this generic no-name brush that I got from Walmart when I first got back into makeup. But it is fluffy, much like the base shadow brush from Real Techniques. So the shape is kind of an in-between of the Real Techniques base shadow brush and your generic packing brush. So I love that about this brush. This is I'm probably going to gravitate to this brush a lot in the coming months. Then the next brush that is on this list is the crease brush. And the crease brush is used to add depth and dimension to eyes. Its short, dense shape is perfect for applying darker shadows to eyelid creases. Now, as a crease brush, I don't see it. I see this as a packing brush. I see this as a very big and thick packing eyeshadow brush. What I expect out of a crease brush is something a little bit more like this. And maybe not necessarily duo fiber, but on the fluffier side with a little more give, more cylindrical as opposed to flat and tapered. So this is just, to me, I'm not going to be using it as a crease brush. I'm going to be using this as like a packing brush for pigments or foil eyeshadows. The next brush in this list is the brow brush. The brow brush is used to shape and fill in brows for the perfect fullness and shape. This brush, I feel like initially was intended to be used as an eyeliner brush, and then they were like, let's make it a brow brush, because it's not as big as the Harley Quinn one, and it's not as thick as the Harley Quinn one, and it's much smaller. So that's what's making me think that this was initially intended to be an eyeliner brush. But again, it's not as dense, so you'll probably get a more natural look if you're using powders. The next brush, which they say is the precision eyeliner brush, used to apply liquid or cream eyeliner along lash line. Its long and pointed shape allows for a smooth and straight glide. This to me is a huge pencil brush. It is way too thick to be an eyeliner brush in my opinion, because here's a pencil brush that I got in a generic set from Walmart a few years ago. Same size, same shape. This is the Makeup Geek pencil brush that I got, I think 2 years ago. A little bit smaller, again, same shape. This is what I expect out of a precision or pointed eyeliner brush. Something small, something that I can get a very small line with, something that I can control my wing with. Again, this, to me, it's gonna get too crazy too fast. It's gonna be way too dramatic straight off. So I don't see this as an eyeliner brush. This to me is a giant pencil brush, which I will probably be using this as a pencil brush to sketch out my outer V's and maybe to use in the crease. The last brush in the Catwoman set, it's a spoolie. It's a spoolie. What else do you want it to do? It's gonna be good for grooming your brows, and I actually used it to groom my brows this morning. It's not necessarily anything particular about the brush, it's just a slight annoyance about the packaging for me. All of these brushes are the same size as in thickness, but for some reason the cat logo on this one is small as opposed to the rest of the brushes. I don't know why exactly they chose to do that, it's just a small annoyance on my end. So that is my first impressions review of the London, Soho, New York, DC comic brushes. Overall, the packaging's really cute. It'd be nice to just have these on display on your vanity if you don't want to use them and if you want to keep them in pristine condition without having the logos on the handles wear off or anything like that. I feel like there are better versions of these brushes on the market, but if you want to merge your love of comic books and your love of makeup, this is the best way to do it right now. The more I think about these brush sets and which character got which, the more it makes sense to me with Harley Quinn getting the all over face set because she has to paint her face white and apply her makeup in just one broad thing. For Barbara Gordon getting the contour set to hide her, to change her bone structure, to hide who she is as Batgirl from people like Joker and Penguin, and all that makes sense to me. And Catwoman getting the cat eye set because Catwoman, seductress, she's the anti-hero. She uses her sexuality as a way to get out of her tight spots with Batman sometimes. But overall, I'd probably give these three brush sets probably a 3 out of 5. They're just better versions of them in other brands on the market right now. Again, if you want to merge your two loves, best way to do it right now. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again sooner than usual. Bye! I really feel like they missed out on an opportunity with Poison Ivy by not giving her a lip brush.